The story begins with a king who united 8 countries, ascending to the supreme throne of souls. He was the first king to sit on the throne of souls, and received a special reward. But he was killed by an assassin. The assassin said that he, being an ant, aspired to be a king, which was an unforgivable sin, so he was killed. In the moment before his consciousness completely blurred, he, bleeding profusely from his internal organs, was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, and then underwent cardiopulmonary resuscitation. When he opened his eyes again, apart from remembering that he was stabbed to death by someone, he had no idea about the current situation or where he was. The bodies of the dead all around made him suspect that this place was hell, but in his previous life, he had not done anything evil, so why would he appear in hell? He also forgot who he was, with a splitting headache. And finally, he remembered. His name was Baichi, 20 years old, and before he died, he was a game streamer. An open-world action RPG game called Throne of Souls caused his popularity to skyrocket, despite having no fans. The game is set in a medieval Western fantasy world, with the addition of wildly imaginative settings, like a suddenly crashed alien vanguard ship, violently merging ancient civilizations with future technology. It was also because of its unique worldview setting and top-notch plot and graphics that it was highly esteemed by players. But the game's perverse difficulty also deterred many players who wanted to experience it firsthand, and a large number of players flocked to live streaming platforms to watch game streamers suffer. He also enjoyed a huge wave of traffic benefits because of his skilled top-level operations, which brought a stunning gaming experience to the audience. Afterward, he was inexplicably killed. A voice began to converse with Baichi, stating that he was dead, but also still alive. To be precise, he was reborn. He looked around, not knowing who was speaking, but this familiar voice reminded him of the voice assistant of the Game Plus World gaming platform system. Through the system's introduction, he learned that his death automatically triggered a special reward he obtained in the game, Key of Rebirth, so he was reborn into the world of Throne of Souls. He then understood that the special reward he received was rebirth. Unfortunately, he was not reborn into a world full of beautiful girls and benefits like in a romance game, but into the world of Throne of Souls, which has hellish difficulty. The system explained that rebirth is an exclusive reward for this game, and other games do not have this kind of mercy. Baichi felt that such mercy was clearly malice. According to the tone of this game, it would definitely not easily give out such benefits. Sure enough, his task was to ascend to the Throne of Souls again and become king once more. Moreover, this time becoming king would earn him an even more generous reward, named Key of Transcendence. He could traverse the gaming worlds on the Game Plus World platform at will. Of course, he could also choose to return to his original world. He knew without thinking that after his rebirth, the unlimited resurrection mechanism in the game was gone, which made the already hellish difficulty of the game world even more difficult. On the Game Plus World gaming platform, he has 100 games of various types under his account, all of which are full achievements. The system explained that, although he can't resurrect infinitely, he can randomly unlock the protagonists of these 100 games by completing tasks and goals at different stages, thereby inheriting their various abilities and equipment. As a lover of all types of games, he will not specifically live broadcast to play a single type of game just because what type of game is popular. So he has completed all the achievements of 100 games on the Game Plus World gaming platform, covering almost all types of games from popular games to 3A masterpieces, niche games to individual independent productions, and even text games without pictures, even without the mechanism of infinite resurrection. But if he can use the abilities and equipment of these game protagonists in the world of the Throne of Souls, this is really mercy to him. The system also stated that he can also choose to be a powerless civilian living in the world. Giving the choice of civilians is obviously to make him more determined to embark on the road to becoming a king, so he will not be easily fooled. Being a civilian seems to be conservative and can stay away from the most dangerous boss, but he also has to face deadly dangers, such as disasters and famines, which is not meaningful. His last question was about whether there was a time limit and related penalties for ascending to the Throne of Souls. The answer he received was that there were no restrictions. In the end, Baichi successfully chose the Becoming King mainline and signed a contract with the system. Back in reality, several upside-down figures were swaying non-stop, trying to communicate with him. This was an elf, and he was now wondering why the boy below, who had clearly died a few days ago, was now alive again, making his suspect that he was a rekindler. But it didn't matter. He still hoped that the boy below could rescue them before the group of monsters returned to their cave and leave the Wailing Cave, this cursed place. On the other side, the human warrior was very excited. If it weren't for being harmed by a traitor, they wouldn't have ended up in this situation. He felt that the little brat, who was almost scared to death a few days ago, was completely unreliable. There was also a beast clan hunter beside him, who wearily expressed that everything was meaningless and it would be better to just die. Baichi then saw another key character, the princess of the Starshine Kingdom, Mina. He realized that this was not an NPC that a newbie should encounter upon birth, and the Wailing Cave was not the original starting location of the game. If he had chosen to be a civilian just now, he might have died just after being born. The Wailing Cave is a game location for levels 20 to 30, and he once again felt the malice of the game's hellish difficulty. It was clear that the main storyline sequence was now completely disordered. The first chapter of the original game should have been born in the 1 to 10 level Kafanka. Then go to the 10 to 20 level Burnt Jungle to do tasks. And during this process, trigger a forced plot. Get captured to the 20 to 30 level dungeon Wailing Cave. Then rescue the hanging Princess Mina and her group. And finally join forces to break out and conquer the dungeon. But he shouldn't think too much about it. He must first choose an initial profession, and then decide what to do. He summoned the system, which offered the following initial profession choices: Brave Warrior, a melee profession, equipped with a long sword and shield, balanced in offense and defense. Sorcerer, a ranged profession using a staff and spells, capable of both attack and healing. Assassin, a profession that can fight both melee and ranged, using daggers and throwing knives, notable for attack speed and agility. Elemental Ranger, a profession that can fight both melee and ranged, using a wand or bow, controlling the power of natural elements to attack. And finally, the Outcast, a despised and scorned role with no profession, no special traits, and no extra armor, starting only with a set of cloth clothes and a wooden stick. Baichi's choice was the Outcast, the profession he initially used to clear the game. The system was puzzled. With so many useful professions available, why did he choose the one with the weakest ability and the most difficult survival? The profession choice in Throne of Souls affects the early survival rate and playstyle, and although it can be subdivided into different professions from the mid-game, none can exceed the large professional framework. Only the Outcast, a profession with the highest difficulty in survival, allows for a key hidden NPC to be found in the mid-game for attribute resets, allowing for any profession change without restrictions. It has the highest difficulty, but also the highest playability. And there's one more significant hidden trait. It allows for achieving all profession achievements in one go through unlimited profession changes, without the need to create multiple new characters for different professions. This is also why he was the first to clear the game and achieve all the achievements at the same time. As he chose his profession, the main quest was updated. He needed to survive and reach the exit of the Wailing Cave. The reward for the quest was 1 account unlock point. With this reward, he could either unlock 25% of the random, unrestricted items in his current account's warehouse, or unlock a new game account with 25% usage rights for its items and skills. After reading the quest, he understood that escaping the dungeon was now the most important thing, and those who were hanging were still persuading him to quickly untie the ropes to save them. However, what the others didn't know was the consequences of untying the ropes. Once they were rescued, they would be attacked by the level 30 Plague Beast clan leader, and what awaited them next was the boss battle of this dungeon. This battle was already very difficult, and now, with no attributes, no level, no equipment, it was a certain death. Although they were important NPCs, survival was the most important thing at the moment, so he chose to escape the cave alone first, complete the task, get the reward, and then decide whether to come back to rescue them. Thus, he turned and walked away, ignoring the doubts of the two who were hanging. Without explaining anything, he walked with his wooden stick for a while, and as expected, he encountered a level 5 Plague Beast cub ahead. The hanging people took pleasure in his misfortune, watching the monster pounce towards Beichi, feeling that he had no chance of winning and was doomed. Even if he chose not to save people, the battle was still unavoidable. Compared to the unbeatable level 30 boss, killing a level 5 monster was not impossible. He rolled twice in succession, nimbly dodging the monster's attacks, which was not something that could be done by luck alone. It required extremely precise timing, and such operations made the three hanging people take a new look at him. He moved a little and found that the connection between his body and consciousness had no delay. Even if he had no equipment or attributes, the reaction and experience of a top player was still there, and it was time for his operation. The monster, feeling mocked by its enemy, began to rage and threw a bomb at Beichi. The violent explosion made the monster overjoyed, thinking its enemy was already dead. But unexpectedly, a figure wielding a wooden stick swept out from the flames. He swung his weapon, striking the monster's face, and the scraping-like attack began. After continuously attacking the monster, he was out of breath but unharmed, facing the monster that was furiously charging at him. He delivered the final blow, finally depleting the monster's health bar. The three people hanging in disbelief saw Beichi kill a level 5 monster with just a wooden stick and without a scratch. But even so, it took all his effort to barely kill one monster, and it still didn't change the fact that his chances of survival were very low. Sitting on the corpse, he knew that the situation was indeed so. Although he could completely dodge based on experience and prediction, the gap in attack power could not be made up in a short time. His attributes and weapons were still too weak. This was the price of choosing the Outcast profession, and he needed to avoid any battles other than forced ones as much as possible. The system displayed the rewards he received for defeating the monster. He opened the attribute panel and found that his attributes were as bad as expected, and he was still 900 soul points away from leveling up, making it impossible to level up by killing monsters. He stood up ready to leave, and even though the hanging people offered him a generous reward to rescue them, he did not pay attention. Princess Maya had already woken up by then and signaled the elf guard not to beg others bitterly anymore. She believed that if they couldn't escape their current predicament on their own, then they shouldn't even think about overcoming the greater crisis on the road to reclaiming their country. Even in adversity, the princess was able to maintain absolute rationality and elegance. She respected the choice of the level 1 outcast, even though she thought it was unwise. Beichi explained to them that he had his own plans, and he knew that, even if he promised to come back and save them, the princess's group would not believe him. As expected, the human guard thought his behavior was purely toying with them, and was about to curse. But he was stopped by the princess. According to the original plot development, even if he didn't save this group of people, they would find a way to escape. But whether to save them or not depended on whether he could successfully reach the exit and what system rewards he received. Allies are important, but survival must come first. The Wailing Cave, as the last dungeon of the first chapter of the game, had been thoroughly explored by him in his quest to collect all the treasures hidden within, so he was very familiar with the terrain. If he wanted to encounter the fewest and lowest level enemies, there was only one path to choose, and before that, he had to rescue a key character. A talking pot, smelling Beichi's scent, kept signaling him to come closer. In fact, it wasn't the pot that was talking, but the person inside the pot. The person in the pot had originally come here to treasure hunt and hid in the pot to avoid monsters, but accidentally got sealed inside by magic and couldn't get out. Now that there were no monsters around, he just needed to break the pot to let the person out. Without any hesitation, he broke the pot. A puff of smoke dispersed, revealing the person who had been inside the pot. Named Luki. As the one who helped Luki, he could fulfill one reasonable request for him. He pretended to be very panicked, saying that his friends had been captured in this cave, but because he was too weak, he could only seek Luki's help. After understanding the course of events, Luki decided to help him and protect his safety as promised. When the two of them reached a tunnel, they encountered a monster ahead. It was an adult plague beast, roaring and swinging a large hammer at them. Luki smelled a familiar scent and realized that it was this monster that had sealed him in the pot, so he angrily drew his sword to counterattack. The level 18 monster was no match for this level 27 guy. Luki thrust his weapon forward, having the monster's health bar. And then without any hesitation, he beheaded the monster, cutting off its head. Baichi, watching the person who stepped on the monster's head, praised Luki's strength as truly formidable. He led Luki to the edge of a cliff, claiming that he heard his friend's voice coming from below the cliff, urging Luki to quickly find a way to save them. Luki's method of saving people was simple. He kicked the person who had once saved him off the cliff, and Baichi fell down the cliff with a loud cry. Luki looked down at the bottom of the cliff happily, saying that, whenever he saw someone standing on the edge of a cliff, he had the urge to kick them off, especially since Baichi was a rekindler. And according to the Iron Law, rekindlers were beings that everyone should kill. But the next moment, he found that the person who fell off the cliff didn't die and even asked him how he found out that Baichi was a rekindler. Baichi at the bottom of the cliff was looking up and talking to Luki. Normally, falling from such a height should have been fatal. And even if not dead, the pain of ruptured internal organs would be unbearable. Fortunately, he knew there would be items to pick up below. Seeing this situation, Luki clicked his tongue in wonder. Knowing that rekindlers were very strange, he regretted not stabbing the person just now. But Baichi was trapped in the abyss, and death was only a matter of time. After saying that, he turned and left, leaving the person below to wait for death slowly. In the original game, Luki was a treacherous NPC who always liked to kick players into the abyss. But if the being kicked but not dying mechanism was actively used, it could reach many hidden places. Baichi took advantage of this and also used the potion he had just picked up on the bottom of cliff to restore his health. But what puzzled him was the rekindler mentioned by Luki, a setting that had never appeared in the game Throne of Souls. He needed an explanation from the system. The system indicated that most of the relevant information had been locked. The only information known was that rekindlers specifically refer to people who have come back to life for some unknown special reasons. Knowing that this was a setting with locked information, and recalling Luki's attitude towards rekindlers, he had to start taking this tricky identity seriously to avoid any unexpected problems later. He stood up and walked to the hidden area of the Wailing Cave. The Lost Ruins. The road ahead had no plague beast monsters, but it was full of treacherous terrain kills, and he had to be alert because the real danger had just begun. After an indeterminate amount of time, Baichi arrived at a ruin, and with his knowledge of the game's storyline, he knew that this place was one of the abandoned relics of the underground civilization. Throne of Souls, as an open-world action-adventure game, has a fragmented approach to storytelling and narrative development. Players must find clues from different NPCs, monsters, bosses, ruins, etc., to glimpse the truth of the world. As a player who has completed the game and achieved all the achievements, he already knew everything about this world. Of course, except for rekindlers and other newly added unknown elements. The background of this world is, in the center of this fictional world called Pascal, there exists a giant crystal known as the soul of the world. Under its radiance and energy, various species coexist harmoniously, and the world is vibrant with life, until one day, an alien spaceship called the Deep Space Unmanned Vanguard ship suddenly crashed into this world. Unfortunately, the crash site was precisely where the soul of the world was located, and the foundation that constructed this world collapsed. Although Pascal faced its doomsday, it did not end or get destroyed. Instead, the world kept splitting and splitting, giving rise to even more diverse species and civilizations than before the doomsday, including the civilization to which the ruins he was exploring now belonged, the underground civilization. And within the ruins deep beneath the Wailing Cave, there lies an unknown underground river exit. The task given by the system only stated to reach the exit alive, without specifying which particular exit, which gave him a chance to cheat. Even so, this path, although devoid of monsters, had a much higher death rate than other routes, because he had to accurately judge the position of the platforms protruding from the rock walls. A poor landing would mean certain death. Baichi approached the abyss without hesitation and jumped in. His experience gained from countless deaths in the game told him that reaching the bottom of the abyss was not a problem. The only thing to note was that the closer to the bottom, the narrower the metal platforms became, the lower the margin for error. Even if he remembered the position of each platform, he had to be extremely careful. He landed on a metal platform extending from the rock wall. The narrow and slippery platform almost made him slip off, and he barely managed to maintain his balance and stabilize his figure. The dangers here, even though he was already extra cautious, still nearly led to an accident. Fortunately, it wouldn't be long before he reached the exit. Suddenly, a man with a sinister laugh appeared behind him, patting his shoulder. From Beichi's words, the man knew that the exit was just below. The sudden appearance startled him, and without a word, he turned and attacked. The man lightly jumped to dodge the attack, performing a backflip and landing steadily on another metal platform. This man was named Harvey. Harvey mocked the level 1 outcast for having a big temper, and regretted not stabbing Beichi in the heart to kill him instantly, instead of just appearing behind him to scare him. Beichi loudly questioned the man before him, not knowing who he was or why he appeared behind him. At that moment, he recalled that the corpse next to him when he fell off the cliff might have been this man. Suspecting that this man was also a rekindler, Harvey felt that compared to himself, who was reborn as a level 28 elemental ranger, the person reborn as a level 1 outcast was simply unlucky. He didn't even have the desire to kill Beichi. One moment, Harvey was laughing so hard he couldn't straighten up, but the next moment, he teleported behind Beichi and launched an attack. Crimson blood sprayed out instantly, and Beichi's health dropped by more than half. He didn't understand why this man did this. As rekindlers, they should help each other escape danger. From Harvey's sarcastic words, it wasn't hard to understand that the idea of rekindlers helping each other was a joke. He realized that the system hadn't told him rekindlers are enemies of all beings, but their biggest enemies are the rekindlers themselves. Harvey was disappointed that this person didn't even know the most basic things. He had thought that this level 1 outcast, so familiar with the way here, might have something special, but now Harvey just felt it was a pity that a chance for rebirth was wasted. Beichi, holding his wound, swung his weapon to attack. Not only did it not cause any damage, but the powerful enemy broke the wooden weapon into 2 pieces. Harvey knew that this level 1 outcast couldn't understand his words, and that there was no need to waste more time. Out of consideration for Beichi leading the way, he decided not to kill him directly, leaving the injured to fend for himself. Even if Beichi really survived, he didn't mind others seeking revenge on him. Watching Harvey leave, Beichi began to inquire whether the system was still hiding any important information about rekindlers and this world. The answer he received was that these pieces of information were not deliberately hidden. The hidden information of this world must be unlocked by himself, due to the special event he just encountered. Several hidden pieces of information about rekindlers have now been unlocked. Firstly, rekindlers are defined in this world as extreme heretics and will be targeted and hated by all species in this world. Among rekindlers, there is an even more brutal mechanism of killing and competition. Killing rekindlers not only grants a massive amount of soul points, experience points, but also blood soul points that unlock new accounts. Secondly, rekindlers are the general term for people reborn in this world, but not limited to the human species alone. Rekindlers may be reborn into different races, genders, professions, identities, and levels of beings, and lower-level rekindlers can be recognized at a glance by higher-level rekindlers. Lastly, the initial profession of each rekindler contains some special information about this world related to that profession, except for the outcast. However, the outcast can obtain special information from other professions through later profession changes. As for what differs in the systems carried by each rekindler, related information is locked. The system had provided so much information at once that Beichi felt overwhelmed. His body continued to plummet downward, and if he couldn't think of a solution, soon, he would truly die. But he hadn't given up hope. Clinging to the edge of a metal platform, he exerted all his strength and painfully lunged toward another platform. Blood sprayed from his body upon impact. He told himself not to give up. This second chance at life was hard-won, and he couldn't squander it easily. Besides, he was almost at the bottom of the cave. Even if it meant enduring more pain, he had to persevere. Beichi decided to take one last gamble. Tilting his body backward, he allowed himself to fall uncontrollably. His body collided with each protruding platform on the way down. But miraculously, he landed on the ground without dying. He had won the bet. Laughing with joy, he realized that the exit was just 10 meters ahead. He would crawl if he had to. However, his elation was short-lived. Strange sounds reached his ears, accompanied by a familiar scent. Something else had appeared, a rare and terrifying creature, the fused Nash beast. Baichi's instinct urged him to escape. He vividly remembered that the exit of this subterranean waterway should be devoid of any monsters. Yet, inexplicably, they now appeared. To prevent the situation from worsening, he needed to exploit the weakness of the creature's slower first form and climb to the exit as swiftly as possible. Before he could act, the monster erupted, splitting into countless eyes filled with mouths. This was the second form of the fused Nash beast. Unexpectedly, it had rapidly transformed into a swift-moving menace, surrounding Baichi. So many impossible things have happened all at once. He thought of the man who had severely injured him just now. It was clear that the man had deliberately lured the monster here, just waiting for him to walk into a trap. The appearance of this person disrupted the situation he had originally controlled. Given his current state, his only outcome is death. In the next moment, numerous monstrous eyes opened wide, revealing sharp teeth, ready to devour Baichi. As a battle-hardened top player, he refused to yield to the dire circumstances. Rolling to the right, he evaded the monster's attacks and plunged into the adjacent river flowing with green liquid. Enduring the corrosive acid, he emitted anguished cries. Yes, this underground river, altered and polluted over centuries, had become the acidic Stygian river, capable of consuming almost any life. The pain, seeping from skin to bone, surpassed even death. Yet Baichi's survival instinct burned fiercely. Though the river's acid gnawed at him, his tattered cloth provided some defense. But for the exposed, split-fused Nash beast, it was lethal. Before these creatures could resolve to fight to the death, Baichi had to reach the exit. Given a second chance, he wouldn't allow himself to live as he had in his previous life, oppressed and hopeless. Baichi, born in poverty in the mountainous region, believed that attending a prestigious urban high school would change his fate through education. He left his mother and hometown, working tirelessly washing dishes in the morning, studying secretly with a flashlight at night. Fortunately, he secured admission to his dream university. Unfortunately, his mother fell terminally ill. His world crumbled. Years of sweat and effort vanished. He gave up his studies to earn money by delivering food, and also gave up his dignity to borrow money everywhere. Sadly, his mother still died of illness in the end. Working and live streaming games became his entire life. Although there was no significant improvement, his popularity skyrocketed because of a game. Just when he was about to reach the peak of his life, he died inexplicably. Baichi had long accepted life and death, but reborn in a familiar game world, he couldn't tolerate another unjust death. Before becoming this world's king, he absolutely couldn't die. He slowly stood up, and as soon as he stepped forward, he suddenly accelerated, ignoring the monsters tearing at his body, and resolutely rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Finally, with only a thread of life remaining, he heard a hopeful sound, the system's prompt. Player Baichi, you've successfully escaped the Wailing Cave and gained unlock points. 1. Choose one of the two options below. As the monsters nearly devoured every inch of him, he selected option 1. Suddenly, countless green lightning bolts erupted from his body, illuminating the surroundings. He used an item from his inventory, the Holy Blood Essence, to instantly restore 100% health and permanently boost his peak level by 30. Simultaneously, he donned the Bloodthirsty Shadow, a suit exclusive to the assassin profession, and equipped the dagger named Scarlet Killing Blade. In the next instant, myriad blade flashes swept through the air. With countless strikes, the eye-covered monsters were sliced in half. The gentle breeze stirs up the cloak of black and gold, a crimson scarf billowing in the wind. Green lightning dances ceaselessly on the dark golden armor. Baichi, with a dark red dagger in each hand, stands tall. This is the stance of a reborn king, a testament to his indomitable spirit and unyielding resolve. This is the posture of power, the embodiment of a true champion reborn. The relentless eye monsters attacked again, but Beichi faced them as a blur, his strikes leaving only faint green arcs. Within moments, the monsters behind him were severed, blood spraying from their torn wounds. His decision not to risk unlocking a new account and instead inherit the items from his existing account seems to be absolutely correct. Even if only 25% of the items can be used, it's completely sufficient for the early and mid stages, because all the items and equipment he has stored in his warehouse are top-notch. He flicked the blood off his dagger and moved forward, while the monster eyes behind him trembled as they watched his retreating figure. With an unknown source of courage, the frail eyeballs gathered together and transformed back into a massive monster, sticking out its tongue and baring its fangs at the person in front of it. Unfazed, Beichi awaited the system's task. As expected, the prompt sounded, "Hidden quest updated. After killing the fused Nash beast, you'll receive triple rewards." He no longer idly toyed with the dagger, swiftly catching it as it was tossed in the air. The fire behind him formed a circular pattern, a prelude to the activation of a skill. The two daggers were swung in across to form an X shape. With the sound of a sonic boom, he took a lunge forward, facing the fearsome giant monster before him. Beichi remained undaunted. He knew its attack patterns well, and speed was the key to neutralizing it. His dagger plunged into the creature's body, leaving a crimson wound that bled profusely. Beichi agilely attacked the spiky body, returning the pain it had inflicted on him twofold. The debuff from his skill set the monster's wounds ablaze with crimson flames, while the deep bone pain intensified. The creature howled in agony, its mouth gaping wide. He thrust upward from the creature's body into the air, hindered by its bulky physique. The monster could only rage impotently. Another mysterious crimson pattern appeared in the air. Two identical clones appeared on either side of him, followed by his main body transforming into several shadow clones, all delivering the final blow to the monster. Terrified, the monster attempted to flee, but the red streams of light from the clones assailed it. The level 25 fused Nash Beast's health bar finally hit 0. Beichi's over-leveled combat prowess, combined with the system's triple reward, granted him 18,000 soul points. He also achieved the achievement Sometimes a faint light is stronger than a raging fire, and his level increased to 8. Among his rewards were gold coins, the filthy crystal bottle, and the prayer, piercing of suffering. The latter prayer was particularly good. He had deliberately tried to obtain it 30 times before without success, but now it appeared after just one monster kill. He glanced at the unallocated attribute points on his attribute panel. Since he was currently following the path of the assassin profession, agility was the most important attribute. Therefore, he allocated all his attribute points to agility. Finally, he inspected the 25% unlocked portion of his inventory. Unfortunately, most items were consumables and materials. His luck seemed poor. Despite having many top-tier weapons and class sets in his complete inventory, none were unlocked. However, he did gain access to 2 exceptional sets. The Blood Armor Dragon Berserker set, with its matching weapon, the Dragon Spine Sword, and the Starry Sky Prophet Mage set with the accompanying Deep Space Beacon. Although unusable for now, these sets, combined with other unlocked items, ensured his survival in the early game. Now, he had to consider whether to go back and save Princess Maya's group or to leave alone. Although he understood the game well enough to survive as a lone wolf, there was now an additional variable of the Rekindler. He didn't know the extent of the changes the appearance of the Rekindler would bring to the original game. Additionally, he didn't know if there were any other unknown elements that would alter the original settings. Without clarifying this information, instead of taking on high risks alone, he might as well join Princess Maya's group, sharing the risks while gathering intelligence. According to the original storyline, as long as he chose to rescue Princess Maya, she and her group would eventually become important allies and aides in the later stages. Even if, by any chance, they deviated from the storyline and insisted on killing him, he now had the ability to protect himself. So Beichi decided to return to the Wailing Cave and save Princess Maya. Inside the cave, the sounds of battle echoed throughout the space, and the sight that met our eyes was a floor littered with monster corpses stained with blood. In the distance, the battle was still fierce, with weapons clashing, sparking brightly. Two monsters with crimson eyes stared at him, wielding giant axes and hammers, respectively. Engaged in combat with their enemies, Beichi let his cloak flutter behind him as he knelt down in prayer. Suffering Pierce summoned sharp blades, which swiftly dispatched the monsters still roaring in attack. The main route out of the cave had been mostly cleared of monsters, and now he had reached level 10. There was only one essential battle left, the final boss battle. It's worth mentioning that reaching level 10 unlocked a reputation system, another new feature not originally in the game. In his opinion, the real world didn't encourage lone wolf gameplay. He glanced at his reputation with Princess Mina's camp and found it to be truly terrible. Suspecting they must be cursing him behind his back, Beichi's suspicion was correct. Meanwhile, the few individuals still suspended were discussing whether Beichi's body had cooled down yet. Princess Mina, as the leader of the team and the lowest level member, felt deeply apologetic, believing she was a burden that had needlessly endangered everyone's lives. Upon hearing this, the three of them comforted her, saying that they had long sworn to be loyal to the princess and to death, so the princess didn't need to apologize for this. However, they were angered because a thoughtless outcast had ruined the vitality they should have had. As they conversed, two rotating daggers sliced through the ropes suspending them. The four individuals plummeted rapidly, finally breaking free. The human guard took the lead, using his body as a cushion to protect the falling princess, preventing her from getting hurt. The beast guard agilely adjusted his posture mid-fall. Landing on the ground, he couldn't help but lament his failure to die once again. They checked each other for injuries, with the most bedraggled elf guard couldn't resist quipping about whether the rough way of freeing them was meant to save or harm them. A figure clad in dark gold armor approached from the distance, assuring them there was no need to be nervous. It was merely a small response to the curses they had just hurled at Beichi. Four individuals looked towards the person in the distance, listening to the familiar voice, finding it difficult to believe that the owner of this voice was the level 1 outcast who had just left them to die. He lifted his hat, revealing his face inside, causing everyone to prepare for battle because in just 1 minute, the boss would arrive, and a tough battle awaited them.